In this video, you are going to watch a summary of some SLA fundamental concepts, such as input, interaction, and context. Input. Input is the language data which the learner is exposed to. Russian was an important figure, whose input hypothesis is central to all of acquisition. According to his hypothesis, second language acquisition takes place when the learner understands input that contains grammatical forms that are at I+1, i.e., are a little more advanced than the current state of the learner's interlanguage. Comprehensible input is quality, relevant, and understandable input. What is deemed comprehensible will depend almost entirely on the individual learner. When input is negotiated and learners produce output in interaction, they selectively take in portions of comprehensible input and choose correct linguistic forms to express themselves. This process makes it possible for the learners to internalize what they have learned and experienced. Characteristics of input: quality and frequency. Then we have that input is different from intake. The latter means the parts learners retain, store, and relate to existing knowledge. This is that the learner takes input into another level of language learning. According to Ellis 1995, we have some conditions to the transformation of input into intake. Comprehensible input: personalized utterances, linguistically simplified language, the use of concrete reference, a positive learning environment. Interaction. Interaction refers to exchanges learners have as a receptor and participant in a conversation. Here we have output. Output is what comes out. Output is the language a learner produces. Output hypothesis. Swine, the most influential figure of output hypothesis, has argued that comprehensible output, which is the most important element in learning process, also plays a part in language 2 acquisition. She pointed out early in 1985 that only when learners are obliged to produce comprehensible output, otherwise comprehensible input alone is insufficient to language 2 learning process. Learners have to produce in order for acquisition to take place. Also, Swine suggests the chances of successful language acquisition are higher when the individual has the opportunity of organizing his or her output during interaction with an interlocutor. Interaction. The importance of interaction for second language acquisition was proposed by many theorists. Some of its benefits are: 1. Interaction allows the learner to practice his or her acquired linguistic knowledge through output. 2. Interaction generates input, procuring in this way more data about the target language for the learner. Negotiation. The interlocutor indicates that she or he does not understand the original message that the learner wanted to communicate. So, negotiation appears with the conjunction of input and output leads us to a fundamental part of the learning process. Cited in GAS 2002, page 174. Negotiation of meaning leads to modified interaction, which consists of various modifications that native speakers or other interlocutors facilitates acquisition because it connects their input comprehensible to learners. For example, native speakers in a conversation with non-native speakers often slow their speech down, speaking more deliberately. Context. The importance of context lies in the social and cultural factors which may affect the learner. The main aspect in context during interaction is that learners have two different ways to get knowledge: the formal context and the natural context. About the formal context, this refers to classroom-type situations, where there is an explicit focus on the conscious learning of rules and grammatical forms. Long, 1988, concludes that formal instruction has positive effects on the process of acquisition of a second language. The importance that the classroom can have in the learning process is highlighted because it is a realistic way. Here, three main areas have been focused on: teacher talk, interaction analysis, and discourse analysis. Teacher talk, according to Pica and Long, 1986, a teacher normally addresses many learners at the same time, and it can cause misunderstandings. Formal speech modifications can be detected with learners at all language levels, according to Hackinson, 1986. About interaction analysis, it takes into account the individual who is learning the target language, who has the role of interlocutor. Discourse analysis. According to McTeer, 1975, classroom discourse can be distinguished between four basic types of target language: mechanical, meaningful, pseudo-communicative, and real communicative. Then we can talk about task. Studies claim that the tasks most likely to promote negotiation, interaction, and hence acquisition are the following: information gap tasks, problem solving, and debates. Natural context. Foreigner talk. This is that native speakers talk different foreigners. Native speakers use simplification to facilitate communication. Some of the features of foreigner talk are regression, which means native speakers unconsciously goes back to different stages of his own language acquisition. Adaptation. Native speaker uses same forms that non-native speakers. Negotiation. Native speaker simplifies and clarifies the message. Input, interaction, and teaching. How can I promote interaction between my students? Reduce groups to negotiate, meaning avoid endless amounts of group work. Provide your students with input. Avoid ambiguity. Be clear and transparent in your speech. Simplify input. Provide your students with natural context. Increase your students' satisfaction. Foster involvement. Take hyperactive students into account. Be aware of other factors. One example that you can do with your students is to choose a story. This story has to be short and with not too difficult vocabulary. Also, it has to be interesting according to the student's age. And don't forget the student's context. In step 1, you can read the story or tell the story to students, explaining serious hinders comprehension. After that, get the class to tell you anything they remember about what you have told them. Then repeat it and see how much they recalled. After that, hand out the text and ask students to see how much they got the first time and the second time. Go through the text explaining and answering questions. Ask students to highlight expressions, grammar aspects, or vocabulary that is hard for them or they are familiar to. Then ask students to choose new words, new expressions they want to learn. Finally, ask students to write the most important aspects they remember about the story, but also about the grammar points, vocabulary, and some collocations or formulaic expressions that they recall or they want to learn or practice. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this video and I hope the information is useful for you.